Okay, so today we're lucky to have Jennifer Vessels talking to us, and I know you've been traveling between Oslo and Silicon Valley for the last, I don't know, 10 years more.
Something like that, about probably 25 actually.
Yeah, wow. And always trying to help Norwegian startups um, start up and help Norwegian corporations to start innovate. Um, so I want to ask you, what do you see as the main difference between the innovation culture or the innovation systems in Oslo and Silicon Valley?
Yeah, there's a few similarities in that there are universities that drive some of that innovation. There's a lot of young people that want to have the freedom of being an entrepreneur, or at least the perception of being free to create their own company and business.
Hmm.
But there are some fundamental differences, and over the last 25 years, from when I first came to Norway and lived in Norway working for Tandberg until now, I've seen a lot of things evolve in Oslo and the innovation system.
Hmm.
And I mean, I would think some of the fundamental principles are that in Oslo, there's been a focus on let's be innovative.
Yeah,
It's
just
been
for the sake of innovation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
for the recognition that some of the past growth and the capital and the GDP, if you will, of Norway was built around oil and gas and natural resources. It's been an intelligent recognition from the government and society that we need new sources of growth within the
Hmm.
company
Hmm.
and a intent to invest in and build innovation in technology and science.
Hmm.
And I applaud the society for recognizing that. And so really funneling and putting the emphasis on let's get good at this.
Hmm. So we have like a national burning platform in Norway.
Well, at least a national recognition that there
Hmm.
could be a burning platform that
Yeah.
is driving things.
Yeah, literally burning platform.
Burning oil platforms.
Yeah.
And in fact, over the last year, as things have changed quickly in society due to the pandemic, I've seen more of a recognition and an urgency that we do need to change, and that's all good.
Hmm. So
That being said,
that's an interesting topic in itself. I mean, you're stuck in Norway now, so you're one of the Corona refugees, aren't you?
one could say that. So yeah, to address that, I have been extremely fortunate in that the time I had in Norway building Tandberg's international business was phenomenal. And Tandberg, going back 20 years ago, was a very Silicon Valley like company.
Hmm.
Passionate people committed to doing whatever it takes to build a great solution, very market focused, extremely strong visionary leadership,
Hmm.
empowerment, all of those good things. So I go back to Silicon Valley after we founded Tandberg US, build a consulting company around innovation and growth where there's clearly a need back in Norway. So that's how I started
Yeah.
coming back to Norway to really help support that innovation system, which is
Hmm.
of course how you and I met, Jens.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've been extremely blessed to be able to divide my time. I mean, I would be in Silicon Valley 1 to 2 months, for example, end of November through end of January. And then I would come back to Norway and be in
In
Norway.
springtime. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so it really worked about 50% of the time on either end. So
Hmm.
last January 20th of 2020, in fact, I left my home in Silicon Valley near Palo Alto, planning to be in Norway through the end of March. And yeah, a few things like coronavirus and canceled flights and political unrest happened. And I'm honored and blessed to be here and will be for
Yeah.
the foreseeable future. So that's good.
So you mentioned universities. I remember a discussion about that. That was a couple of years ago about how was it was it Stanford?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how professors there actually invest in the startups that their students have, which is, I mean, that's one huge difference. You don't see that in Norway. I mean, you're a professor in, say, technology, and you invite your students to start companies and actually invest in them as part of your, position as a professor. That's a huge. I mean, that's one thing you don't see in Norway. Or did
Very
you see anything like
interesting.
that, Rasmus, in your studies?
I'm sure there are some regulations prohibiting it in Norway, I would guess. So
Prohibiting
no, I
Most
don't know. I'm just
definitely.
saying at least there are
it?
some.
Yeah.
No, I've
It's
never heard
just
of that.
natural. I mean, that's just completely natural. And it's a great example of what I talk about Silicon Valley style and the culture. I mean, Silicon Valley, unlike Norway, really is one big global community within a local area. It's an area that encompasses a size and a space probably from Drammen to Ski to Lillestrøm, that area, that has 6 million people. And those people can range from students to professors to investors to the gardeners to everything that makes society work. And I think a lot of the people in that area are from other places. In fact, about 95% of us that consider Silicon Valley home grew up somewhere else, either other states in America or, for a lot of people, other countries. And so just that nature of being very diverse, and also people that have a little bit of that experience of going from another place into a new culture. We're used to learning how to work with others in different ways.
Yeah.
And one of the things that attracts most people to Silicon Valley, whether it's a student or a professor or somebody to start a business, is the passion to make a difference. And so when you add those things together, I mean, if you think about a professor who has a passion to make a difference in helping young engineers learn computer programming, and he really gets to know these people, it's only natural that he or she would want to invest in their companies because they see the opportunity. It's much more of a blending of people and cultures and boundaries.
You mentioned making a difference, which is quite interesting because I've done a lot of interviewing of people we potentially hire. And of the students we interview, I've seen a trend in the last few years where a lot of Norwegian students who say they want to make a difference end up wanting to work in public sector in Norway. That's where they see where they can make the most difference for the kind of the time they have. Do you see the same thing in Silicon Valley, or does that kind of willingness to or motivation to make a difference spawn a new company instead?
Yeah, it's more that it spawns new companies. At least, from a Silicon Valley view, the person that is attracted to the typical public sector, and we would call it government kinds of roles. I mean, those people tend to be more structured, more traditional, more want to have a job and do their job and put their passion elsewhere. You see a lot of the people that say, I really have a dream to change the world. They believe that they have the ideas and the capabilities and the network to do it on their own outside of that structure.
But what kind of infrastructure does or environment does Silicon Valley have that kind of gets people to spawn these companies instead of kind of just signing up at the government office or something like that?
Yeah, that's you're touching on exactly the biggest difference. There are certainly resources and there's incubators and structures in Silicon Valley, but that other than that, there's very little. I mean, there wouldn't be a government office you would go sign up for to get funding. That just simply doesn't exist. So it spawned in Silicon Valley out of the person. The person says, I have a dream and a passion to create an app that lets people identify which park bench is on the sunniest side of the world to help them do X. I mean, they're fueled by
That's a
their
great
passion.
idea, by the way.
You can tell it's November and I'm appreciating the sun today. But it's much more, it comes from the person. And the funding to go explore those park benches and to experiment, that funding comes from the person. It doesn't, nobody gives them money. I mean, he or she may talk to their friends and family that believe in them and will give them a loan. They may go to the bank and take out an extra mortgage against their house, but there's nowhere outside that they would go to get funding at that level. Once they've built a business, then there may be people that want to invest in it, but not the give me money. Rasmus.
Yeah, and I guess Silicon Valley, you have people, you have the most kind of driven, passionate people from all over the world, and kind of pushing each other to new adventures, and you have people there with money willing to invest in these kind of startups, and so there are lots of good things in place. While in Norway we have kind of all kinds of people, both risk averse and less risk averse, and people who want a safe job and people who want to make a big impact. So yeah, I guess it's kind of unfair comparing.
Yeah, it's I have this feeling or this idea that as you said, Silicon Valley attracts a certain kind of person, and you see that much more in America than in Europe, and especially in Norway, that people move around to be part of a community somewhere. While in Norway we live where we live and we do the best out of that.
And that's completely different mindset. I mean, if I really think through the, say 4,000 people I know to some degree reasonably well in Silicon Valley in an expanded network, I can think of maybe 5 that were born in California. I wouldn't know anybody that is in the town where they grew up. It's a different mindset. It's much more the mentality of people are there for a reason, not by coincidence. We migrated there in order to be part of that society, changing things, driving things, and with wide open eyes that it's not utopia. I mean, it may sound a November day in Norway, being in sun in Silicon Valley with investors and other people around you may sound like a perfect environment, but it's highly competitive. It's extremely difficult to buy houses and to set up a life. It's extremely expensive. It even makes Norway look inexpensive in some areas. So it does attract the people that have a strong passion, are willing to take a big risk in a lot of ways, and are really engaged and passionate and committed to doing what it takes in order to bring their ideas to life.
That reminds me of one of the things I think is surprising is because in Norway we're so used to thinking that wages are so high in Norway, like we're a high cost country. But when you look at highly qualified people, Norwegian wages are actually pretty low. And,
very low compared to other places like Silicon Valley.
Yeah, so especially for like doing a tech startup, if you want to do highly, like you require highly skilled people, Norway is actually a pretty good place to do that because of internationally comparatively fairly low wages for highly skilled people.
Exactly. And that's one of the challenges that companies have is paying the high wages as well as then retaining the people.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that everybody is competing for the same highly skilled people, and there's not 3-month obsiglose or whatever it is agreements, and anybody is free to go anywhere at any time.
And that's a cool. I want to talk to you about like the environment and the circulation of people and circulation of ideas, but let's do that in the next episode.
Perfect. That sounds great. I look forward to it.
Thanks.